We're live.
3, 2,
2, 1. Can you hear us out there, general public? Can you hear it all?
Cuckoo, cuckoo.
Coo? Coo. You got to go to the Lifelines ministry main page, and it'll be on my icon. It'll say live.
There may be a heading that says videos.
Play, mix, or subscribe. Go live now.
Yeah,
That's us. We're live now.
that is us now.
Right now.
We're live.
We can hear you.
So,
Okay.
all right.
Oh, it's delayed.
It's gonna screw us up. All right, so welcome to the very first Lifelines for Stronger Tomorrows. We are literally new at this. I mean, this is like infants playing with technology.
IT is not the specialty.
No. We need. So anyone out there that has any expertise in doing live streaming with audio, we have microphones. We've invested some energy. You might see this microphone that we have in front of us. It's not working. We've got a mixing board down here that looks like it's working, but it's not working. It's not coming through. So we're using the computer laptop as the sound. Hopefully this is good enough.
Let's see what happens.
We'll see what happens. So without further ado, welcome, Lifelines for Stronger Tomorrows. My name is Jim Egan. I'm the minister of Lifelines Christian Ministry. And with me is Kevin.
I'm Kevin Smirko. I am the mental health counselor with Stronger Tomorrows Counseling. Hopefully to be part of a good conversation today about anxiety and the holidays and what the holidays mean as well.
Yeah, well, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family too, Kevin. I know that was something that we all enjoyed yesterday, perhaps. But Thanksgiving brings, at least for our family, it brings a dynamic that can create anxiety leading up to it, and then certainly during the family activities. I was anxious to go and see my family. That wasn't something that I was necessarily always looking forward to doing. I say it's because it's a different type of dynamic. So I don't know exactly what that means. What would be a holiday based anxiety? Why would that be common, I suppose?
From my experience, I see a lot of people who have trouble getting together with family. There's different viewpoints in life. There's history that maybe had some rough patches that haven't been worked through yet, that it's like, I got to be around this person again. But there's a lot of dynamics there that we get into the stress of seeing family and how do we make that work, as well as just the little parts of cleaning up the house and travel and how do I get where I'm getting and home when I want to be home.
Yeah. The stress in and of itself, right? Just getting to and from the traffic. That could bring you anxiety as well. So what is anxiety?
So anxiety from a clinical standpoint is a little bit different than just our daily stress. When we start talking about anxiety can be very useful. It's kind of our brain telling us, hey, we got to prepare for something. It's that step beyond worry. And where it becomes a problem is when we start changing the way we would normally live because of it. So that's when it's getting in the way. I'm too anxious to go see an uncle who maybe I didn't have a good interaction with last time, and so I'm just not going to go, as opposed to looking at how do I work through it? How do I maybe have a conversation and smooth this over a little bit or figure out what happened the last time? So anxiety is that set of mental symptoms, some of the thoughts that come through our head, oftentimes that like kind of spiraling down of what if, and trying to resolve those, all the way to the way it affects our body, where we can have increased heart rate, increased temperature, face gets flush, all of the things that we had as we started this. So as we're preparing for this very first
inaugural live stream here on YouTube. I can tell you, Kevin knows firsthand that I was very anxious. You could see the red flush because I don't know what we're doing, right? So I'm trying to figure out all this technology. So as we started before, I will say again, if you really know how to do these types of things, please reach out to us, send us a chat afterward, or reach out to one of us offline, and we would love to talk with you about how do we make this even better. Because as kidding aside, and as anxious as we were to do this, I think the courage that I had overcame the anxiety, because I think it's important that we talk about this subject. I think it's important that a lot of folks that are suffering a bit in silence, Kevin, if you think about it in a sense, they're anxious, but they don't want to talk about it. And they also don't know how to deal with it. So what do you do with it? Like, if I'm anxious, I'm going to get red. I'm going to get red faced, as you say. And I have to make a decision. I either have to go forward and figure it out with a bit of courage, or I'm going to retreat, right? So what are your thoughts on something like that?
Well, I think that it's that biggest part is I have to go forward. I can't get caught staying where I'm at and staying stagnant. When I think of anxiety, and I think of specifically speeches, talking in front of people, doing what we're doing now. I had a speech teacher years and years ago that talked about how anxiety in that setting shows respect for our audience. And that always stuck with me, that I'm anxious because I want to do a good job.
Yeah.
I want to present myself well. I want to be something that's useful to these people that I'm presenting myself to, whether that's friends, family, an audience. So that sticks with me, that we can really use that anxiety and change the way we think about it to, I'm excited. This has a purpose. This is preparing me. It's okay if I stumble over, as I did introducing myself today.
Yeah.
that we can work through it, and it's okay because other people are anxious too when they do this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And any situation that you're trying something new, there's going to be a sense of anxiety. So I guess the question that I would think about is, what's the difference between maybe normal anxiety? I'm a little anxious about speaking live on YouTube, or maybe that's becoming somewhat beyond normal. What is the difference between that? What does it look like?
For most things, when we start talking about like disorders, we start talking about, is it anxiety or is it an anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder? We start talking about, where is it getting in the way of life for you? Where is it affecting you in a way that is really inappropriate for what's really going on? Those are those situations where I'm afraid of flying, so I just don't fly. I'd rather drive 15 hours across the nation.
Yeah.
Or, I'm first-time mother. I'm leaving the kid home with the babysitter for the first time, and that anxiety of I need to get home right away.
Yeah.
Am I going to ditch my night
right
to get home? Is it affecting my life to that point where I'm changing it beyond what it really should be?
And you wouldn't even really enjoy the night, even if you were out. If that was if you had beyond normal, so to speak, anxiety, you're not even present in that moment of enjoying that night out, because you kind of want to get back home real quick, right?
And being present in the moment is such a core of mindfulness, is something we talk about a lot. It's such a core of all of the things that we run across in the mental health world, of being present with where we're at, who we're with, what we're doing, as opposed to planning on the next bunch of things I have to do, or that one thing that's got me stressed out, or even something from the past.
Yeah. I think from a spiritual perspective, from a Christianity perspective, one of the things, being in the moment, living in the present, is a constant challenge, right? So one of the things that I do, something to consider, is I think about what Paul wrote to the Philippians. It was in chapter 4, verse 6, and how he talks about, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. this is kind of a reminder that we don't have to carry this anxiety on our own. We can give that up to the higher power. And that gives, for me personally, it gives me some peace to know that I'm not alone. I've got the power of the Holy Spirit with me, and that'll help give me the courage to move forward. What do you do to help when you're feeling anxious, when you're about to start a live webcast? What do you do to help yourself?
Man, anxiety has been a challenge in the public speaking world for me. And for me, this was a good experience with knowing that I wasn't doing it alone, right? I'm not walking alone. In this case, it's a real person. It's not a spiritual part of it, but it's the reality of being here with somebody who's also going through this thing with me.
Yeah.
To me, a lot of it is remembering we're all humans. The thing that I'm anxious about, somebody's going to see me probably doing it and not doing it perfectly, and remember that they were there before too. And that they're not going to be spending a whole lot of time judging how it went for me.
Yeah.
And that brings me some comfort that I can be imperfect.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to go right.
Yeah. And so one of the things I learned through speech class was that the audience isn't going to remember 90% of what you say. What they will remember is how you made them feel. And if we're genuine, we're authentic, if we care and we present ourselves and we are going to make mistakes, we're going to see that we're nervous and everything, that actually to me is endearing. It's a bit of, that's humanity coming through, and people have grace, extend grace and forgiveness for things like that. So I guess the thing I'd ask is, if when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling and the holidays bring that on us, when we're feeling anxious or beyond maybe the normal anxiety that you might feel, what are some of the things, what are the 3 things or 2 things that you might recommend they do? What do we do to help calm us down, or what do we do to address that?
There's some go-tos for anxiety. The deep breathing is one that many people work with, and 2 of my favorite forms of that. One's called rectangle breathing. That's my personal favorite. One's called triangle breathing. They're very similar in the way that they're designed to affect our body.
What does it do? What is a rectangle versus a triangle?
So we're looking at bringing physiologically our body back to more relaxed state. Manage that breath rate, manage that pulse rate, all of that stuff. Allow our adrenaline to get through our body, all that stuff. So rectangle breathing and triangle breathing both incorporate inhaling and exhaling. The difference between rectangle and triangle breathing is there's another side on the rectangle for holding the breath. So for rectangle breathing, I might go 4-second breath in, hold for 2, 4-second breath out, hold for 2. In triangle breathing, I might breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold. Or breathe in for 4 seconds, hold, breathe out for 4 seconds.
And the hold serves as an important part of that, right? It's not just breathing in and out. The holding is, what is the holding doing for us? It's calming us down a bit, right?
We have to be able to pause.
Yeah.
And that's what anxiety doesn't let us do.
Right.
It's that what if. So we're constantly trying to plan on what's the next thing, or what do I have to solve now? And that breathing, that hold, literally forces us to stop. And the counting with it forces us to pay attention to what we're doing, which is mindfulness, and that's being in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
I find the rectangle breathing is something that I go to with a combination of prayer. So as I pray, and I usually pray the Lord's Prayer, and as I go through that process with the breathing, I just find myself the energy calms inside me. And it dissipates. That anxiety kind of starts to dissipate out, and I get this peace. And it comes from both of those, the breathing and the prayer for me, right? What other things what might we do to help?
So when anxiety gets extreme,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing we need to do is get ourselves out of the thing that's making us incredibly anxious. If I'm to the point where I'm kind of frozen,
Like a marriage.
just the first one, the second one, however many of them there are. But the first thing we need to do is sometimes with anxiety, we lose touch with reality.
Yeah.
We become so filled with what ifs and worried about maybe something that had happened or something that will happen that we freeze and we don't know what to do. And engaging with our environment is the next important thing. So I've maybe been able to breathe and calm myself physiologically. Now I need to affect my mind. Now I need to figure out, how do I be present mindfully again? And one of my favorite with that is called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. And it's about utilizing our senses to re-engage with our environment. So I would take 5 things in my environment that I can see, 4 things that I can touch, 3 that I can smell. Comes after smell. Taste is last.
Taste.
Here.
Okay. Here. 2 things I can hear.
And the really neat thing with the 5-4-3-2-1 is they don't have to be in order. So if you put them in the wrong order, what it's about is re-engaging with the environment. So I might look around and I might say, okay, I can see a camera, I can see a microphone, I can see a friend, I can see, some of the other decorations in the room.
Yeah.
I can feel the table.
Right.
I can feel the pants I'm wearing, the shirt I'm wearing. I can do those things.
Yeah.
Taste is often the tough one. I don't want you going around licking things.
No.
but for many people, carrying a mint around, the 5-4-3-2-1 is something they commonly use. They throw a couple mints in their pocket every day, and when they use it, here's that last step. It's
a Tic Tac, it's a mint, and it's kind of a, like you said, it's the last step of these 5 in the 5-4-3-2-1. And what happens physiologically or maybe mentally, where once you take that Tic Tac or that mint, does it actually change the way you think? Or
ideally,
yeah.
For some people, it's, I got to go through it twice. I got to go through it 3 times.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not working today.
Yeah,
but
it's like college for me. Got to do it more than once.
Do it a few times. Yeah, do a couple tries. But what it really does, and I like the mint idea. That was actually brought to me by somebody that I'd seen a long time ago. I like the mint idea because it's kind of a closing to okay, I've completed this task.
Yeah.
To get where I want to be, and now here's this ending piece. So I've checked something off the list. I've accomplished something. Hopefully I've been successful. And more often than not, yes, I've been successful.
Yeah. One of the things that I do, and I was going to ask you if this is something that you would recommend, is when I start to feel anxious and worry kind of come together for me. Like I start to worry about something and then I get anxious about that potential result or potential outcome that oftentimes never really materializes. Certainly not to the extent that my mind thinks it's going to be, right? It's catastrophic in my mind, and it comes out to be it's a small little speed bump in life, right? But what I found was that between praying and breathing, I also journal. I also get a journal out. I've got my book, and I start to write. And so I'll write some things down I'm worried about or I'm anxious about. But I also make a conscious effort of writing things down that I am grateful for, that I appreciate, that I think of positives in life. For me, that's kind of helped. That helps me personally. I don't know if that's something that you'd recommend as part of anxiety, or maybe it's borderline, it's some other mental wellness challenge.
I like that you're doing that. A gratitude journal.
A gratitude journal
is an amazing tool because we forget to be grateful. That we go through life and we remember the stuff that didn't go right.
Yeah.
We don't remember the stuff that did go right because it was supposed to go that way.
Yeah.
So in our heads, it's like, that's just the way life's supposed to be, so it's fine. And we forget to be grateful. We forget to be grateful that the bus was on time, the train was on time, so I was able to make my trip on time.
Right.
And we forget all the pieces that go into that.
Yeah.
And the faith that we had to have that those things would happen.
Yep.
So I really like the gratitude journal part, and I like journaling in general because it allows our brain to tell a story, and our brain needs to tell a story or it's going to keep coming back to it.
Yeah, it seems to be it's it's possible, and it happens to me, um, where I get on. Do you remember the old LP records?
Jim, I was
The
born in
Vine.
'84.
so, so you had the Walkman Discman or whatever, right? So for those of you that maybe have been born prior to '84, you'd have the vinyls, and the vinyls are making a comeback. But when you would put the needle on the record, literally, right? But you put the needle on the record, put the needle on the record. But when you put the needle, and it would just kind of stay, it wouldn't advance. It got a groove in there, and it just stuck in the same track, the same lyric. To me, that's sometimes my mind just won't break free of that thought. It'll just be, I'll keep coming back to it. And that thought typically is an anxious thought. And so, is there any recommendation on how do you just take that needle off that record, or maybe change the record?
So one of the things that I really enjoy is figuring out where we're at, and sometimes distraction is the way to go, and other times we need to reframe or challenge. So if I'm at a point where I'm not yet capable of really reframing or challenging my thought, right? My brain's coming up with it. So if I'm going to use my brain to challenge it, it's already said that it's true. So it's tough sometimes.
Right.
Distraction's great. Distraction's great. We don't want to just constantly distract and never develop the skills to challenge. But it's okay if I, go for a run.
Yeah.
It's okay if I find another healthy coping skill that I can step away from whatever is getting to me. If I'm sitting on the couch just thinking, got to get up off the couch and do something.
Yeah. That maybe a hobby, like, if you like painting, or if you like drawing, or just something else, something new, which it's always helpful, right? Or just hit the gym, or go for a walk, or go for a run, as you said.
What are some of your go-tos?
For me, I'll break away and I want to engage in a conversation with somebody. I want to have a social moment with people, because when I'm engaging with people, whether that's the people of my ministry, whether there's friends and family, what I end up doing is I spend more time in that moment, and it's complete distraction from my head, right? I'm out of my head now. I'm in real life having conversations.
I am glad that you brought up social interactions. One of the major things with anxiety and depression is isolation. We tend to isolate ourselves. That's a safer place as far as we're concerned in the moment. We have a lot to learn about the brain still, and the way it works and the way it affects the rest of our lives. One thing we do know for certain is that isolation is bad for us. So when we catch ourselves getting so anxious that we're going to isolate, we need to take those steps, engage with other people.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to be in the moment with somebody and distract ourselves from what we're thinking if we're interacting with somebody.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe this is something for our next topic. Maybe we'll get the microphones working. Maybe we'll get this thing working, but we will give it a shot to make sure that this is better, because I think it's important, as you and I talked about, is that we help each other through these things, right? So if you're anxious, there are things you can do right now. You can breathe. There's breathing techniques, the rectangle, the triangle. There's prayer. There's social interaction and distraction, right? Hobbies, things to do to kind of break away from that. The other thing I would mention is anxiety creates in our own minds bigger outcomes than actually is reality. So the way I remember this is I had a chance to meet Bear Grylls when I was in Ireland, and he was giving a speech, and Bear talks about when he was going through the special forces, the British special forces, and trying to become one of those elite special forces soldiers, and he had to push himself. And talk about anxiety. He had anxiety about passing. He didn't pass the first time. He failed. So he had to try again. And so he had a lot of anxiety. He had anxiety. He said he's anxious on a lot of things. He said, but what ends up happening is he just decided mentally, he made a mindset shift to say, I am going to go toward that anxious feeling. I am going to go toward what he called was fear. And as I got closer to that fear, whatever that was, he got closer to it. He said it would dissipate like fog. It would dissipate like fog. It wasn't real. He called it a paper dragon. You think that it's going to be this intimidating thing, and you get closer to it, and it's not. So I think the one thing I would say is that, with prayer, for me, with prayer and breathing and courage, and the Bible talks about having courage because we know the Holy Spirit's with us, go toward it and know that you have a support group. You're human. You're not alone. We all go through it, right? And just know that it could very well be just a paper dragon. Mm-hmm. Okay, so as we wrap up, one of the things I would like to think about is maybe our next topic, and I wonder how connected this is around seasonal depression. We're coming into it, right? So in a sense, there's winter here in the United States. It certainly gets darker earlier, and it stays darker longer. And the holidays can make us somewhat depressed as well, right? So as you think about anxiety, and now we think about where does anxiety translate into depression, or if at all, how do they relate? Maybe we'll talk a little bit about seasonal depression next time.
That's a great topic.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. All of you, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate you signing in. We will try this again, and we're going to get better every time. So if you have any input, if you have any suggestions, please write us. You can comment underneath here. Subscribe and like if you'd like. I don't know how that works, so feel free to figure that one out. And we'll just give this another go. If you're interested in Stronger Tomorrows, Kevin, how might they reach out to you to have a chat?
So if you're interested in some counseling, if you feel like that could be a benefit to you, Stronger Tomorrows Counseling does have a Facebook page. You can reach out to me through that. You can also reach out to me through Psychology Today, psychology.com. That hosts a lot of therapists' profiles. So even if you're looking for something maybe a little different than I can offer, there are a bunch of great therapists on there. Most of my time right now is scheduled with Advanced Psychiatry of Elgin. So you can also call them as well.
Perfect. And then if you're interested in Lifelines ministry, which is really around extending a lifeline of hope and faith and love and support for all of us who may be suffering in silence, you can go to lifelinesministry.org and be happy to connect with you, set up some time and have a chat. So as we close out this session, I just want to thank you for all of the insights. Kevin, thank you so much. And for the connections that we shared here today. May the seeds planted through this conversation grow into courage and strength and peace for all of us who may be struggling with anxiety. So until next time, we want to thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you a happy belated Thanksgiving, a wonderful Black Friday. I think there's a Cyber Saturday or something else. Enjoy your weekend.
Shopping weekend.
Shopping weekend. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll talk soon. Take care.